Hey guys, haven't really been keeping up with the amount of video, well, the supposed amount of videos I was gonna put up, but that's typical of me. I'm a procrastinator, and I have been busy. It's the holiday period, so but I did promise some videos, so I feel like delivering. But this will not be any of the videos that I promised. You see, Sanders Robin made a video that's generated quite a bit of response, and I feel like throwing my hat into the proverbial ring, so to speak, in the situation, because it's an interesting topic, and it's one I didn't quite think of myself, and it's quite diverse in the amount of ways you could approach it. Like this particular topic is the whole um, the whole fact that Sanders believed that WWE this past year in 2011 has been better than Ring of Honor, and it's an interesting one because um, a lot of people have responded, and there've been different opinions. And some people think ROH were better, some people think WWE were better. And I honestly think it really depends on what you consider to be better. And and whether you look at it as a whole or whether you look at specific points in the year. I'm going to come straight out and say this hasn't been the best year in Ring of Honor history. In my opinion, it hasn't been the worst, but it hasn't been the best. Um, But with the TV deal, they had to come in and then they had to reintroduce stars to a whole new audience. So it was kind of like they were hitting the reset button on the product. So I think that was tough on them, and that really affected Death Before Dishonor as a card. Which was Death Before Dishonor was a good show considering what they had. They had no Davey, they had no world champion, and this is a company that they produce a handful of pay-per-views a year, handful. So they had the two WrestleMania shows. They had Ninth Anniversary, Best in the World, Death Before Dishonor, and they're gonna have Final Battle. So six pay-per-views in a calendar year, and one of them does not have your world champion at all, let alone a world title defense. I'm sorry, but if you're only going to be doing that amount of shows, that amount of pay-per-view shows, you need your champion on every single one of them, no matter whether the title changes hands or not. And you need world title matches to make the title mean something. And I'll admit that I'm fine with the whole idea of Davey facing Roderick on television for the title. That's fine because that was a good match. But your pay per views are where you're gonna really be making the most money. I mean, admittedly, you've got to put on a good product on TV to be able to get fans to come in and buy the pay per view. But if your television is better than your pay per view, then th- there's no there's no point in doing pay per views, really. I mean, especially for a company that does so little, and yeah, that's the way I look at Ring of Honor. Um, in terms of the whole overview, I mean, it's a television to pay per view thing. And they looking through the shows, Ninth Anniversary was better than a lot of people expected. I mean, it was a weak as shit card, really, on paper, and the whole idea of Briscoes versus Wrestling's Greatest Tag Team main eventing it left a bit of a bad taste in my mouth, especially with Wrestling's Greatest Tag Team going over. Just didn't seem right. And then they then went on to win the titles. Although I think the WrestleMania weekend shows were good from top to bottom. I think they were both great shows. The first night I obviously was the better show, but they put on a great weekend of shows there. Best in the World was it was good. That was a good show, and I think one of the things I really liked about Best in the World is that as it went along, the matches seemed to get better, which is something I think is really important for companies like Ring of Honor, who are still really an indie company. In terms of building the product, building from top to bottom, and that should show itself in the pay-per-view. So say the opening match is the weakest, and then you build and build and build, and your main event should be your best match. That's just the way I see it. Obviously WWE doesn't do things that way, but that's because they don't need to. Again, Death Before Dishonor was a solid show for what they had. Again, a tag team main event, three tag team main events at pay-per-views. Three tag team main events out of 6 pay-per-views is too many for me. I know you want to make the tag team division seem important, and the ladder war main eventing is fine, but I think my real issue is with the idea of having the Briscoes versus Wrestling's Greatest Tag Team main eventing 9th anniversary show. Although I can't really see what else could have main evented that card, which is kind of a problem in the card as opposed to a problem with the structure. It's the people who are on the show. It's the matches that are booked as opposed to the actual content. And if that's a problem for an indie company like Ring of Honor, who are trying to build their audience, then it's not really a good thing, is it? But what can you do? That's past is past. I mean, you can only hope they learn from their mistakes. Final Battle looks pretty stacked. I'm really looking forward to Final Battle. Really looking forward to it. I think it's just going to be a great show. Could be the show of the year. I mean, the whole thing with Steen is fantastic. Davey versus Eddie could have been better. I still think my belief is that this should have been the match. This should have been the match. It should have been this. There shouldn't have been a match at Best in the World. It should have been built to this. But they did it, and I mean the match at Best in the World wasn't bad. It was a very good match. But yeah, the storyline just after Best in the World, it sort of went It kind of just petered out, and well, it's similar. I mean, you can look at it like I wouldn't say direct comparison, but similar comparison in the idea that you had CM Punk. That storyline was really hot and really big and really interesting, and people were interested. People wanted to see it happen, but at the same time, there were people who were basically red hot on Davey Richards, thought he needed to be champion, etc., etc. And you can look at them in sort of parallels, but I think Ring of Honor have done a better job of salvaging the whole Davey Eddie thing. Well, not really salvaging it, because they didn't fuck it up as royally as WWE did. Because WWE, they put the title on Punk, they had him go, they had him come back, then they had him win the title, and then they had him lose the title, and then they had him win the title. Just flip-flopping the title all over the place. Their belt doesn't mean anything. You can't even compare in terms of prestige, in terms of their titles. Ring of Honor titles are more prestigious than WWE's titles. Simple as that. And Ring of Honor have the better wrestlers. They don't have the best wrestler they've ever had, but they put on the better wrestling shows. I'm still of the belief that all WWE really has done this year is the CM Punk storyline, because they fucked up Alberto Del Rio, which I was so white hot on. I thought if they push him right, then he could have been that main event heel, but they made him look like a schmuck. You made him look stupid. Why? Why are you gonna go and do that? What does that achieve? They're just jobbing out a guy that you've built up, and just make him look like a wimp against John Cena. Why? Why would you do that? It's just frustrating. Elsewhere, you had the whole Rock coming back, which they handled well to a point. Like, I don't think they've completely. I don't think you could completely fuck up the whole thing with The Rock. And it was a really tough situation in terms of what they were going to do at WrestleMania 27, because you can't, because The Rock's not going to wrestle, but he's at the show, he's there, he's going to draw. He needed to do something with Cena. He needed to do something, and it's kind of hard to, it's kind of hard to say, well, you have The Rock cost him his match, but then if you have him cost him his match, it's a screw job and a finish on the main event at WrestleMania. But you can't have it lower on the card because it's John Cena versus The Miz, and it's The Rock, and The Rock's involved in it. Because you can't have The Rock cost John Cena the title and then have something come on after it, because that just doesn't work. So they had a really awkward situation. So they just thought, go with The Rock costing Cena the match. Rock bottom. Compared to what they could have done, that was fine. I feel like with that, what they should have done is they should have at first teased the idea of them having a match at SummerSlam to keep fans interested, thinking they're going to have this match at SummerSlam, and then have the Punk storyline happen. It would have been so hot that people probably would have actually forgotten about The Rock, because they would have been like, this CM Punk storyline is wow. It's big. It's sort of. I'm not saying it's bigger than The Rock coming back, because it's not. Nothing is bigger in professional wrestling than The Rock coming back. It's simple as that. But it was big, and WWE fucked up. So what can you do? But all in all, like, in my honest opinion, you look at things like that, comparing the storylines, comparing the rosters, comparing what they've done with what little they have. Well, obviously WWE doesn't have little, but if you look at WWE as a fucking gargantuan company, because they're huge, they are the biggest wrestling company in the world, bar none. They've got millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars at hand. They can go for years and years and years without going out of business, and losing money without going out of business. And Ring of Honor, who are a struggling indie promotion with like a tiny budget. I mean, they obviously had more money since they were bought out by Sinclair, but they have far less to work with, and a far smaller fan base, and a far smaller audience. And I think they've done far better with what they've got than WWE has. So yeah, I'm going to say Ring of Honor has had a better year. WWE hasn't had a good year. They've not. If you take The Rock out of the equation, and WWE are losing money hand over fist. The Rock is the only reason that this year hasn't been the worst, maybe ever, because the product has been that bad. I mean, there have been some bright spots. People like Dolph Ziggler, Cody Rhodes coming through, having great matches. I mean, even Daniel Bryan, and I mean, I'm glad to see him as the world champion. But at the same time, you've got to look at it like they jobbed this guy out so many times, and now they put the title on him after they've jobbed him out like dozens of times. They make him look like an idiot, and then they put the title on him. Why? It just doesn't make any sense to me. Yeah, but it's WWE. What else? What are you gonna? What else are you gonna expect? Yeah, Ring of Honor have been the better company, and there's no argument really. So yeah, that's my take. Let me know what you think. Obviously, I allowed some time for this argument to sort of die down, and I give myself a few days to consider this before I made this video. But you know, opinions is opinions, and my opinion is that Ring of Honor are good, simply because, well, they put on better shows, more consistent shows. They've been more consistent with their storylines. They've had the champion. The belts are more prestigious because the champions hold them for longer. You know, flip-flop titles around. Their TV product has been better. Their build has been better. Everything in Ring of Honor has been better than it has in WWE. Except for the drawing, obviously. I mean, WWE still draws bigger than ROH, but that's pretty much it, really. That's pretty much it. Anyway, yeah, let me know what you think. Rate well, like, dislike, I don't care. Subscribe because I'm awesome, and I'll see you. Peace.